An entitled Karen demands that I pay her son for mowing my lawn, despite the fact that I never asked him to mow it in the first place. And even though I tried to explain the situation to this lady, this Karen was freaking out and refusing to take no for an answer, demanding that I pay her son. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old male and I recently bought my first house. I'm settling in and I really like the neighborhood, and a few neighbors even came by to say hello, and that included a woman in her 40s and her 13-year-old son. Well, not long afterwards, I was on my couch one afternoon and I saw this lady's son outside mowing my front lawn. Now, I was confused, since I had never asked him to do it and he had never offered. So I went out and politely asked him why he was doing it. He said he did it for lots of neighbors and quickly added that they gave him $5 for it. Now, I found it really weird, so I thanked him for the partial work that he had done before explaining that since I hadn't asked him or wanted him to do it, I wasn't going to be paying him. He then said okay and then quietly left my lawn. Now, I figured that might be the end of it. It's just a kid trying to make some money, and it would have been resolved with no harm done, thus making it the end of the story. But the next day, his mom arrived on my doorstep and angrily asked me why I had not paid her son. Well, when she said this, I basically repeated what I said to her son, but she just wouldn't accept it. She just kept saying that it was a kind gesture and that he does it for all of the other neighbors. It's only $5. It's not a lot of money. You could have given it to him if you wanted to. When she said that, I kept trying to explain that an agreement like that needs to be set up ahead of time. Otherwise, it's just nothing more than a random demand for money. But regardless of what I said, she basically tuned me out and ended up walking away as I was talking. And I was amazed the adult in the situation was handling this worse than the literal child was. And right now, I'm wondering how much longer this will go on for. Well, that was last week. And every time I've seen her since, she's stared daggers at me or made a show of crossing the street to avoid me. I'm not instigating any further, and I really have no desire to speak to her, but I'm thinking she might try to send her poor kid back to collect the money or even mow the lawn again. Now, I have vented about this to my family and friends, and while most seem to agree with me, some said I should have been grateful and paid the boy and just told them from then on not to mow my lawn. Now, I can't tell if I've been the jerk here or if my reaction to the entire situation was entirely justified. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I do feel bad for the kid because obviously they're just trying to hustle and make some money, but they did this completely wrong and in a way that kind of like backs you into a corner where if you don't pay him, you're going to be seen as a monster, but if you do pay him, you would basically be encouraging this behavior and you would be on the hook for any future endeavors. And that sounds incredibly annoying. Like seriously, who would just walk up and be like, okay, I'm going to mow this lawn and then ask for money? Like the better way to do this would be to walk up to the front door and say, hey, I'll mow your lawn for $5 and then you can go about doing it. But like this is completely backwards. Now with that in mind, it kind of makes me believe that this was intentional and that he absolutely did this on purpose and this is like part of his scheme and his mom is in on it in some kind of way. Like just look at the way she reacted when you said, no, I'm not going to pay for a service I never asked for. She threw a temper tantrum and said, oh, it's only $5. Come on, you could have given it to him. And for me, when anyone's this pushy about money that I don't owe them, that's like a red flag I will never ignore. It really gives the impression that she's trying to work some kind of weird angle. So no, you are not the jerk in this scenario. The way they did this was completely weird, and if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for throwing my kids' Happy Meal out into the trash after my mom bought this for them, despite the fact that I made it explicitly clear that I don't want them having that? Because right now, my obese mother is angry at me, saying that I'm trying to bully her just like the doctors who were trying to get her to lose weight. Here's what happened. When I was a child, my mother had no concept of what healthy food was. If it said diet on the box, it was okay. She would serve me cereal for breakfast, with dinners often being processed ready-to-eat junk or McDonald's. And after-school snacks were either cookies or Little Debbie snack cakes. My mom is obese, and I was almost 300 pounds when I graduated high school. It was only after I moved out that I realized how unhealthy I was, and it took me years to lose that childhood weight and establish good eating habits. Now, my wife has always had them and was brought up by a family that didn't trust processed foods. And my family and I now follow a whole food diet for ourselves. My mom had a heart attack and is now almost 400 pounds. This is her third heart attack, and she wasn't able to make rent, so now she is living with me and recovering at my home. She has been to a nutritionist multiple times for her weight and acts like she is too stupid to understand what they are saying, or acts like no one really eats like that, or the doctors and nurses are bullying her because of her weight. She has been ordering junk food and takeout on applications applications like Instacart and Uber Eats, and she's been feeding my kids the same junk food, even after I've told her to stop. I hear the Ring camera go off, and my youngest child goes to get my mom's latest McDonald's order, and my mom got both of my kids a Happy Meal, and this was the third time that she had done that this week. Well, I took my kids' Happy Meal and I tossed them in the trash, and I poured cleaner on top of them. I told my mom if she wants to eat herself to death, that's okay with me, but do not do that to my children like you almost did to me as a child with this garbage. Well, things got really heated because my mom was crying, saying that she doesn't know any better and that one Happy Meal will not hurt my children, but I told her this was the third one this week, and if she gives my children junk food again, she will find herself in a nursing home. Well, my mom cried and cried, saying I was mean to her and that all these doctors just bully her. She just wants to live her life. But I told her she's not living her best life because she's eating herself into an early grave. My mom called me a bully and told my children that I was a bully and to not act like me in school. Well, I told my mom I'm fed up with her and that I'm going to be looking at nursing homes later that week and that I'm not having her bring this lifestyle into my home around my children. So I really need to know if I'm the jerk in this situation because all of this is still so raw and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, and in fact, I think you're completely justified. If you don't want your kids eating Happy Meals in your home, then your mom absolutely has to respect that. She can't just go around behind your back and be like, here you go, kids. Just one of these won't hurt you. Meanwhile, it's the third one this week, and this lady is literally 400 pounds. That is unacceptable. That's not okay. And literally halfway through this story, I thought to myself, yeah, I would absolutely make this lady move out if she was talking to me like that. So it's really good to see, in my opinion, that the original poster is moving forward with that. Because if my mom is going to talk to my kids like that and try to turn them against me by calling me a bully, then she has absolutely got to go. Am I the jerk for not telling my new friends that I am technically the landlord that they're renting from? Because right now they are furious with me, claiming that I should just let them live there rent-free and that I had no right to hide this from them. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I am very lucky in that I have two very hardworking parents that are successful and love me. We are not mega wealthy, but we are very comfortable, as my parents are extremely smart financially. We own multiple houses as part of our real estate portfolio that we rent out for extra income. I recently started college, and as a present for working hard and getting into my dream school, my parents gifted me one of our houses that is near my college. I was going to inherit them all anyways, but I really appreciated their gesture. Where I live, real estate law is really tricky, and we would have to pay significant taxes to officially transfer the house to me, so we decided to have my parents own it legally for now. Now, the house is pretty big, with 4 floors including a fully furnished basement, as well as a roomy attic. And since it is near my school, I decided to look for roommates so I could start earning money early. So far, I have 2 roommates, who we will call Sarah and Brittany for the sake of the story, who also go to my school. We have been living together for a couple of months now, as they moved in around August, and we are all pretty good friends and very compatible roommates. And this is where I might be the jerk. I didn't want to tell them that I own the house, as I thought it might create a weird dynamic between us, and I didn't want them to view me any differently. We split the bills and rent, with me technically paying nothing, since my father legally owns the house, and we have different surnames as I took my mother's last name. They have no idea I own the house, or that my dad just sends the money back to me. Well, Sarah recently found the money that my dad sent me back while I was still at class, and ended up telling Brittany, and they cornered me about it a few days ago. So I told them everything, and they're mad at me for hiding this from them, and think that I'm not only in the wrong for keeping it a secret, but for also making them pay rent in the first place. The house's mortgage has already been paid for, so the rent goes entirely into my pocket. I responded by saying that they shouldn't have gone through my mail in the first place, and that what they did was illegal, which I will admit was kind of a low blow. We weren't friends when they moved in, and the whole point of me wanting roommates was so that I could earn some extra cash, so I don't see why I should let them reside here for free. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because seriously, this is none of their business. Like, these people went through your mail to try and figure this information out. Like, that is absolutely a violation of privacy, while also being incredibly illegal. You can't do that. And also, these people seriously try to be like, wow, you're making us pay rent. You should let us live here for free. I can't believe you. It's like, what are you talking about? You didn't know the original poster before you moved into that place. And you moved in there under the assumption that yes, you would be paying rent. It is insanely entitled to assume anything differently, and there's no good reason for the original poster to receive this kind of scrutiny. So no, of course you're not the jerk. You have every right to expect rent from these people, especially if if they're gonna be staying in your house? Am I the jerk for sending most of my extended family an email stating that they are never invited to anything that I have going on in my life ever again? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 36-year-old female, and I made the not-so-difficult decision to no longer invite my extended family to quite literally anything going on in my life. Stuff like dinners or parties or school events. Pretty much the only exception is my one nephew who we will call Jamie. He is my sister's oldest son. He moved in with my husband and myself for a while before turning 18 just to get away from his parents and younger brother who's 17. Now for some context, when Jamie was born, his parents genuinely seemed to love him. And to the younger version of myself, they appeared to be good parents. But that changed as soon as his younger brother was born. Suddenly, my sister and brother-in-law talked about Jamie as a nightmare, said he was an awful baby, that they hated every moment with him, and his younger brother was an angel and just completely perfect. And this attitude continued. Jamie wasn't a misbehaving kid or feral as they would describe him, but he ran around, got dirty, made noise and messes like most little kids. But this was treated like something awful. His younger brother was quiet and neat, and they would always compare Jamie to his brother just to shame him into being different. If he spilled something, they would scold him. If he got messy, they would reprimand him harshly for it. Eventually, the rest of my extended family started acting the same. Jamie couldn't do anything right. If he sneezed, it was way too loud. If he fell down, he was being reckless or careless. And the praise for his younger brother was insane. Like, yeah, he was a quieter and calmer kid, but Jamie wasn't destroying things, or even stealing, yelling, or cursing. Even having too much fun got Jamie negative attention, and I was told to shut up whenever I defended him or would tell people to lay off. I took it upon myself to be there for Jamie as much as I could, but the older the boys got, the harder it got, because Jamie also had his brother trying to get him into trouble or berating him for anything. I hated seeing it, but I knew I needed to be there for Jamie, and avoiding it would do no good. So basically, nobody showed up for Jamie except for me. I was often the only family member, except for when I married and had kids, who made an appearance at school plays and stuff like that. When Jamie moved in with us and got his freedom, I decided it was time to do the same. My family kept asking me about coming over and when my kids' things were going on and what dates they were, but nobody was ever asking about Jamie, or they'd want to know about parties for the kids. Well, I let it all pile up, and then I decided to send an email to the extended family outlining how disgusting their behavior towards Jamie had been, and how that meant they would no longer receive any invitations from me. Well, as a result, I got a lot of negativity back, with people actually saying that I shouldn't take his side when he's just a bratty little jerk who deserved everything he got. Now, for the record, I don't regret defending Jamie, but I really need to know if I handled this badly. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Oh my god, your extended family is so toxic. They seriously looked at Jamie and said, you're the problem. And it really does seem like this kid hasn't done anything wrong. He has not offended anybody, and he's not stolen or broken stuff. He has not bothered a single person in this family, and yet his parents have basically turned him against everybody else in the family. Like, they paint this Jamie kid as this nightmare child, when in reality he's just a teenager. He literally hasn't done anything wrong. They're just overreacting to all the things going on in his life, as if they're hyper-focused on all the wrong things he's doing. And that, in my opinion, is so disgusting and so toxic. It's a really good thing that you stepped up and said, okay, I'm gonna be there for you, Jamie. With you even opening your house to him so he has a place to stay just to escape his stupid family. And honestly, this does not sound like family in the slightest. They clearly have pushed Jamie aside, and they've completely compartmentalized him as this awful person who can do all these horrible things all the time. So in my opinion, I think you're a godsend for Jamie, because hopefully he can now see what a real family is supposed to act like. Because what he's gone through growing up, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my little sister's best friend that my brother stole her college fund and blew it all on gambling? Because right now, my family is furious with me, saying that I ruined my brother's life all before he could try to fix what he had done. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old male, and I found out that my younger brother, who we will call Tom, who's also 28 years old, stole $5,000 from my little sister's best friend, who we will call Emma. Emma's 18 years old, just like my little sister, and Tom and Emma's families have always been very close, with Emma practically growing up with us. My mom asked Tom to help Emma manage her money for college because she trusted him with it as he works in finance. Well, Tom recently confessed to me that he borrowed $5,000 from Emma's college fund and blew it all on gambling. He said he planned to replace it before anyone noticed, but he lost everything. He begged me not to tell anybody, saying he's going through a rough patch and just needs time to make it right. Emma's family doesn't have a lot of money, and she worked super hard to save for school. Knowing this, I felt really sick to my stomach. I didn't want to betray my brother, but Emma's future is on the line. So I told Emma the truth. She was devastated and confronted Tom, who denied everything at first, but eventually broke down and admitted it. But now my family is furious with me for ruining Tom's life and says that I should have given him a chance to try and fix it. So am I the jerk in this situation for telling Emma what Tom did to her? Because right now I'm seriously not sure what to do. No, you are not the jerk in this situation. Your brother stole money from another human being, and that other human being just happens to be somebody that you grew up with. Like, Emma isn't a stranger. This isn't someone you're not going to see again. This is a very serious family friend that you absolutely have a history with. So for your brother to be like, listen, I stole from her, but I'm going to get it back. Let me make it right. Like, no, sir, you should have not done that. That is absolutely not okay. If he really is having a hard time with money, then the window for putting money back in this account and being like, oh, okay, I fixed it, nothing happened, like, that's completely closed. We're past that at this point. And at that point, the only right thing to do is to tell Emma, because seriously, she does not want this guy having anything to do with her money. Tom clearly has a problem with gambling, and he should be the last person to handle any of that money. And it's so ironic because he works in finances. You would think that he would know better. So no, you're not in the wrong here, and anyone who's mad at you is completely out of their mind, because Emma had every right to know about this situation. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Would I be the jerk if I walk my daughter down the aisle at her wedding, even though she didn't ask my husband, who is her stepdad, to do that or literally anything at her wedding? Because right now he's saying that if I do this, then I would not be honoring our wedding vows. And right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have two children with my late ex, who we will call Colin. My son is 27 and my daughter is now 25. Colin and I broke up while I was pregnant with our daughter, but he remained a part of our lives until passing away just 6 months after our daughter was born. We hadn't worked out as partners, but we got along okay. Just very different people who couldn't make a relationship work and had kids very early in our relationship. Colin's family were in my children's lives from the start and remained a part of their lives long after he was gone. We never got along, but they adored my children, and my children adored them in return. And their favorite thing was the week they spent with his family each summer. When my daughter was 7 and my son was 9, I met my husband. We married after 2.5 years of dating, and we had already lived together for a year. My husband has no children of his own, and we had none together. He was a very loving stepdad to my kids. Now, my kids and him have a nice relationship, but neither of them call him dad, and neither wanted to be adopted by him, which did come up a year into our marriage. He did ask, and I wanted to find out what the kids wanted, and I spoke to them, and they just straight up said no. And this is not something they later asked for or wanted. Well, my daughter is getting married next year, and she asked me if I would walk her down the aisle. Now, I immediately said yes, and was so moved by the fact that she felt I was the best and only person for the job. She even told me how much it meant to her that I never erased her dad when we weren't even together when he passed away. She said I always put them first, and I had been the best mom, and I honestly cried so hard. She also asked her brother to dance with her in honor of their dad. Well, my husband was upset that he wasn't asked to walk her alongside me, and he was hurt that I accepted without suggesting that we both should do it. I then explained that my daughter had her reasons to ask me, but then he mentioned the dance in honor of her dad and how she wasn't even doing that with him. I told him I was sorry he was feeling so hurt, but he told me that he felt like all the little things that she had asked me to do were just as a way to keep the peace, instead of her truly wanting him to have a role in her wedding. I'm still not sure what these things were, and I did ask, but he wasn't happy about them. He told me I should take a stand and insist that he be included or I don't walk her down the aisle. I told him I wasn't willing to let my daughter down or myself. I told him it was very special to me and my daughter, and he told me I'm not honoring our vows if I do this. So right now, I really need to know, would I be the jerk if I walk my daughter down the aisle, despite the fact that my husband is demanding that I don't do so? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your husband is absolutely crossing some lines here. You mean to tell me that this guy is seriously saying that you walking your daughter down the aisle is somehow you breaking your marriage vows? Like, that is crazy. That is absolutely out of left field, and it's completely inappropriate. Like, where does he have the right to talk to you like that? That for me would make me so offended it's not even funny, because you're not breaking some wedding vow by walking your daughter down the aisle. You're stepping in as the parent that raised her through all of the mess that was her life, whereas this guy is just a stepdad. And yes, it does hurt, but honestly, that's the truth. The kids don't call him dad, and they didn't want to be adopted by him at all. That's not what they wanted and it's not what they got. And sure, he does play a big role in her life, but it's honestly up to her how she wants to run her wedding. So sure, be upset about it. But that doesn't mean that your wife shouldn't be allowed to have this moment with her daughter. You should be happy for her that she's actually doing this and not act spiteful and weird just because you're not included. That's not solving anything, and it really just puts the original poster in a weird spot. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for walking your kid down the aisle, because this is clearly a very special day in both of your lives. And the way your husband is acting right now is very selfish, and you and your daughter do not deserve this in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.